Welcome to Hello Grow,
the number one growth podcast in the world.
Today we have Nate Harris with us, and dude, we are pumped to have you today.
Right.
Quick intro for Nate. I've known Nate for about a year and a half. He's been a facilitator. I think some people would say like a life coach, but you've been a facilitator for me. You're a mentor, a public speaker. I see you as a teacher. I don't know if you see yourself that way. Entrepreneur, real estate guru, and father, and husband, and avid skier. So pumped to have you. And today we're going to be talking about the intersection of energy, intention, mindfulness, and high performance, and how that affects business. So right in your wheelhouse.
Right on.
Bro.
I dig.
And you're the master of question asking. So.
Okay.
Kind of turning the tables. We're going to be asking you a bunch of questions. And to start out, how did you get to where you're at? And then we'll jump into all the stuff. But I want to hear your background.
Sure.
Were you always long-haired, skiing every day?
It's been a while since I've been in that game. I would say it started, my dad is to this day very involved in adventure. So we grew up all over the world. My dad's a geologist, and he loves to travel. He loves to do new cultures. So I grew up all over the world, Oregon, Alaska, Indonesia, England, served a mission in Brazil, West Virginia, California, then Utah. And all of those always included adventure. My dad loves to adventure. And so I kind of picked up on that early. He's a college professor. And what's beautiful is, like, if it was a powder day, school was irrelevant. He would cut his class. He would yank me out of school, and we're bouncing to the mountains. And so early, it just kind of like gave me this vision that life was about experiences, not acquisitions. And after my mission, I had this goal that I could live on less than $2 a day and just ski every day. So I would eat peanut butter and jam and tortilla chips, and I just skied, literally every day except Sunday for 2 years straight. And that kind of set me in motion to build my life around adventure. I had a real wake-up call right 2 months after my wife and I got married. I was driving up skiing one sick POW day, 4 feet of, 4 feet's an exaggeration, but lots of snow, bluebird, cold. I'm driving up Provo Canyon, and a car going down the canyon loses control and goes across the median. And anyone you hear people say, your life flashes before your eyes, but I had that experience. It was I saw this car coming at me, and in that moment, I knew I was dead. I'm dead. And I was so grateful that I was going up to do something I loved, that I was dying in the process of doing something I loved, that I felt this sense of peace. Now, I survived. It was ugly. I was hurt. But that kind of solidified that idea of whether I live 80 years or 8 days, I want to just do what I love with people I love as often as I can. And so that's been the search for me.
So skiing every day for years and years, how did you build a real estate empire?
Yeah,
skiing every single day.
That's the unique thing is I also want the enjoyment of financial abundance. And so I had to find ways that were not office-based to be able to fund a lifestyle. And my wife, Trina, she has nice taste, and so
there's two things you gotta fund.
So I had to find a way to create an income that was either I could do outside of ski hours. Ski hours are 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. ish. So I had to make money before 7 or after 4. And I had to do it on my terms, not somebody else's terms. I didn't want to have to ask permission to go out on a POW day, so it started with, I started as a financial, I was trading in the financial markets. I did that for quite some time. It ended up not ending well, but I learned a lot from it. For 7 years, I was a full-time futures trader. And then I tried to buy a franchise, a Little Caesars franchise, and that also did not end well. But somehow, I was blessed to at least have enough to survive during the down times, that I could continue to do what I loved. And then Trina and I were looking for a way to, what was the next way? And real estate seemed like something that lots of successful people did, lots of people that had time freedom. And so we started. We bought our first little flip in 2011 in Orem, right off of Center Street, this tiny little 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom. We borrowed all the money to do it. We paid a wholesaler like $10,000 for the deal, and we bet on ourselves. I have no construction background, so luckily I had some good mentors, and that deal ended up making us about $30,000. And we were like, hey, we can do this. I can control my time, and Trina's pretty creative with design, and that makes it fun. And that one little flip led to multiple flips and buying rentals and staying consistent as we can, buying passive income properties with the profits that we make from other endeavors. So that real estate, I think, is a beautiful tool to kind of create a life that you don't have to ask permission. You get to create your own permission.
I have a question that I have at the very end, but you've said permission twice.
Yeah.
And maybe 3 times in the last 2 minutes. So I want to go there, and then we'll go to the mindfulness and the energy and the intention.
Yeah.
So many people don't give themselves permission to live I see you as living the exact life that you want, and you've given yourself permission and leaned into that. What's a characteristic trait that you developed that allowed you to give yourself permission, and that you see as keeping other people from giving themselves permission?
Yeah. So watching my dad, second time I mentioned my dad, he's huge in my life, and he's had cancer since I was 3. And somehow he's battled it for 40 years now. But knowing that, watching him have his ups and downs with cancer and the tremendous toll that took on him, I saw that life was short from a very young age. I don't know that I could articulate it so much, but I knew that life was very short. And we are the only ones required to get permission from to live the way we want to live. And so my dad always gave himself permission. Whether he realizes that or not, I don't know, but he always gave himself permission to make life special and adventure. And he always gave me permission. He's a college professor, has a PhD. My mom has a master's degree. They never required me to be something. If I wanted to go to school, okay, go to school. If I wanted to have a job, okay, have a job. If you want to ski every day, cool. In a way, they gave me permission to just be me. And I inherited that from them. So I can't claim that this was something that I inspired myself to do. I think I'm the beneficiary of wonderful parenting. Wonderful. They gave me permission to give myself permission. I see many, many people who try to live up to other people's expectations, other people's paradigms, other people's processes of living. And by living up to or being seen as somebody who fits the mold, that somehow they would feel good or feel valuable or feel quote unquote successful, because in society's eyes they've checked the boxes: the house, the car, the title, the income number, whatever that is, the asset column. And within that, I see them hesitating on the life they really want to live. They get to a level where 5 years before, if they imagined that they could have made that money, they would have said, I am good for the rest of my life. They get there, but then they need to level up before they get that permission to live. And then they get to that next level and, well, now I need more. And it's that I need more to feel good, need more to feel safe, need more to feel secure. All of those feelings cannot be generated from acquisition. They're an inside-out activity. You can feel enough with very little. So I think my parents gave me permission early on to be enough, exactly how I was. And it's one of the first questions I ask people when I work with them, like, who do you need permission from to do these things that you want to do? And the answer is always nobody but me.
Nate, I have a question there. While you've been talking, I just know so many people that grew up around me that are in that loop and they can't get out. They're still trying to live to their parents' expectations or somebody's expectations. And I just can see the mental toll that it takes on these people. And I talk to them and it just feels like you're not talking to them. It's just you're talking to somebody else. And it's something that really, I wouldn't say annoys me because I know but it's something that really, it's almost like I feel bad and feel sorry for them. What do you tell people that are still needing permission, that are still trying to live to somebody's expectations?
Yeah, I don't know that I do my best to not tell people anything. I really do my best to try to ask them, like the question, who do you need permission from? And when they say, well, nobody really except myself, then I would ask them another question. What would it take to give yourself that permission? And they're the ones who are the answer to their own question, not me. Like I don't claim to be the wise one in the room. In fact, everyone I surround myself with is far higher achieving than I am, and I'm very impressed by the people that I get to connect with. I don't pretend to have the answer. I do believe that I can be the one who asks the question, and then they can find that answer. So if someone is living in their parents' shadow, let's say, and constantly worried about how they're perceived by friends or family, we would just talk about the consequences of that. Like, what are the things in life that you're not doing that you want to do because you're worried about somebody else's thought? And how much control do you have of their thought? And how long have you been living that way? And how much does it cost you to live that way? And what if you stepped out of that? What are the risks to stepping out of that? What are the rewards to stepping out of that? What's the worst thing that could happen if you tried that? What if you don't try that? So I just get to hear them and try to challenge their answers, not challenge in disagreement,
Right.
but challenge to sharpen. Like that, if I have anything I can bring to the table, which is very little, the one thing I can is I can try to help people sharpen their thoughts, just because I care. I really care. And so I'll ask. I want to know. Not because I think I know better. I want to know what they think.
That's so wise.
So after you've illuminated it, what keeps people at that point? Is it fear, lack of courage? Is there a character trait that is common that people could adopt?
I think probably number one would be the ability to articulate clearly. Like you and I, when we work together, I'm constantly paying attention to your language. And you probably remember several times where I've like hyper-focused on one word. You said this one word. Explain that. Because if people can sharpen their words, they sharpen their behaviors. Behaviors are just the outlay of a story that we're telling. And so what is it that keeps people back? I think it's an unarticulated story. They haven't inspected their story. So they're living in a story, but it's living in their subconscious. And they're just in the habit of being themselves and telling the same story. So if they're willing to create an awareness around their story first, then they have the ability to inspect, like, well, maybe there is fear. Fear of what exactly? I don't think fear is a character trait. I think fear is a context people live in. There aren't fearful people. People are just people. And then they do fearful things, or they act in a fearful way. So if they can articulate what they're actually feeling afraid of, then they can inspect it and see, okay, well, maybe that's not as big of a deal as I thought it would be. So the skill then would be an awareness. My mentor, Craig Manning, calls it metacognition, to think about thoughts, to inspect the thoughts. And you and I have, snow globe, like put yourself in a snow globe and try to step outside yourself for a second and see what story you're telling. Observe it. Don't judge it. Understand it. So awareness would probably be the number one skill that would whatever it is that's going on that would give someone the chance to step outside of it.
Okay, so that was a perfect segue into awareness, mindfulness. What is it, and what are the benefits from it?
What is it? I think it changes on the context. Could you give me, like, are you just looking in general what's mindfulness, or mindfulness in the middle of a challenge?
People talk about being present, being where your feet are in that context.
Okay. So I think the simplest form for me, and take it from someone who doesn't have like a PhD, I would say I'm more in the behavioral sphere, the experience sphere, would be that I can observe my thoughts as they happen without judgment. To see what I'm thinking and watch what I'm feeling without trying to run away from it, without feeling guilty about it, without any judgment at all. Just to be with it, to sit with it, to be an auditor in a way. You know, when you think about like an auditor, a good auditor wouldn't come in and moralize to the business owner about their expenses, and he wouldn't say, you're somehow wrong for spending money here. He would just put all the numbers on a spreadsheet and say, here's your expenses, here's your income, here's your net profit. There you go. No moral, just here's the data. And awareness is almost like that. I can just be an auditor of my thoughts, an observer. No judgment required. And when there's no judgment, what's interesting is those thoughts that I consider conflict emotions, you know, the fear, greed, anger, if you can observe them, they generally dissipate. At the same time, if you're in a sensation of love or abundance, joy, gratitude, as you observe them, they tend to sprout and grow, which is a wonderful 1-2 punch for getting more of what people want. I mean, generally people don't want to feel conflicted. They want to feel connected. I don't call the conflict emotion bad and the connective emotion good, but someone who's constantly conflicted doesn't have a quality of life that most people aspire to. So as you observe mindfully, as you just non-judgmentally say, man, I am extremely upset right now, with a breath. And you just feel it like a wave. It washes over you, it washes through you, and then it dissipates. On the other hand, if you're in a moment of deep, like I'm going to be on top of the mountain today when we're done, and I sit up there after I climb to the top and I look at what I'm surrounded by, and I'll be with my dad. He's going to be up there. We're going skiing together out in the backcountry. And there will be a moment where I can just sit and observe, and that feeling will expand exponentially. That's mindfulness.
Thanks for sharing that, Nate.
Yeah.
How do you develop the habit so that your knee-jerk reaction is going to a state of mindfulness rather than being subject to the stimulus?
Okay. Yeah, I think nobody is above the stimulus. I'm not. Even the best of us, like, let's say that the most mindful person on earth watched their child get run over by a car in front of them, there will be a reaction. Nobody is above the reaction. It's what happens next that matters. How long does that reaction ripple through? So you're going to feel it. Every reaction comes with a physical sensation, and that's the key. The moment that you feel it, you can take it from investing in that feeling and being controlled by that feeling to, so the habit would be, I feel it, it's time to move towards observing what is going on. So I love simple things in psychology. One that's very simple is a when I, then I. It's like one of the most powerful things I've ever learned. So simple. When I blank, then I blank. So when I feel my heart rate increase, then I take a breath and I ask myself, what's going on? When I feel adrenaline course through my veins and my breathing is restricted, then I ask, what's going on? And that simple habit, just to feel and then ask, moves you towards observance rather than moves you towards reaction, which is like, I'm feeling it, so I have to do something. That's not always ideal. Usually not ideal. Ideally, we pause. And it's within that pause that our prefrontal cortex has the chance, our executive center has the chance to re-engage a little bit. And I mean, if we're asking about that reactive state that's so easy to enter into, the physiology behind that is rough. I mean, when we move towards fight or flight, our executive center shuts down for a moment. And one of our key, like one of the superpowers of humanity is to be able to see in multiple perspectives. And that's your prefrontal cortex that allows you to do that. Well, when you're in fight or flight, adrenaline, cortisol shut that part of your brain down. So you literally can't see anything besides survival. And when we act in survival in today's environment, maybe 10,000 years ago, maybe that actually worked. Today it doesn't. We do things, we say things, we act in ways, we respond in an email that we always regret because we're in survival rather than in observance. So the simple habit, when I feel it, because we all know what our response to stress is. Everyone's a little different, but there's generally a faster heartbeat, our breathing is restricted, maybe a rush of blood to the head or limbs. Your stomach might feel a little butterflies or queasy. You might need to go to the bathroom. These are all cues that like something in the stress realm is happening. So when that happens, that's your cue. That's like the button that's being pushed that turns on the light that says, time to pay attention. And that's a simple habit to create with some practice.
I was on a plane a couple days ago, flying from New Orleans to Dallas, and there was a family sitting in front of me, and the flight attendant said, "Oh, we're going to be delayed for another like 20 minutes." The father of the family in front of me, he's starting to like cuss and just mad and just throwing his hands up in the air like, "Oh, this is unacceptable." And then his wife turns to him and says, "You shut up. Just shut up." And then I just thought to myself, exactly what we're saying. Just he couldn't control like his reaction. And then I'm thinking here as you're saying, and then I want to ask you the question: Is it like a muscle that if you're working on it, you get better at that over time? With starting with those simple habits, and probably someone that is acting like that, is just getting worse as well over time.
Sure, yeah. I think from strength to atrophy, if you put these on a continuum, you said over here is mental strength and here is mental atrophy. Each of those requires exercise, just like your bicep would require exercise. And so I try not to judge people because I've had my fair share of non-aware reactions. Mm-hmm. And who knows what was going on in that guy's life. It's like, do my best not to condemn the person who's reactive, maybe learn from it. I wish I had a perfect track record of not being the dad who's cussing in the plane,
right. Yeah.
I don't. So I can look at that with some grace, but I can also say, like, is that the ideal version of me? No. So I want to practice something else. I want to exercise a different way. And am I going to be perfect in execution? No, I don't have that expectation. But with practice, I probably would side more towards mental strength as a very close to stimulus response, versus the atrophied mind, which is just subject to the environment and the stimulus all around it, constantly reactive, which happens to become habitual because the stimulus in the environment creates certain chemicals that the body lives on. Adrenaline can be addictive. Cortisol, people can become addicted to the life of living in stress because in a way it's like this burst of energy and the body tends to learn. It creates a reward value around that energy. And so conflict, even though it doesn't feel quote unquote good, at least delivers some feeling. And there's a lot of people that are walking around numb. Unfortunately, like they're numbed out on their phones and their jobs and their drugs and their alcohol and their porn and their conflict, their lack of connection with their kids and their wife. And like, well, at least they feel something when they get pissed off. So I could see why the reactive life would create an addictive loop. It's just about, cue, action, reward. And once the body learns that it can get high, quote unquote, off of anger, it'll create that loop, because at least the guy is feeling something.
Right. Wow.
So the when I, then I is game time response tactics. Are there out of the game, out of the intensity practices that can help facilitate the default being the observation?
I certainly think so. How and when people do that is completely individual and individual choice. I know some people do better in the morning, some people do better later on. One just critical tactic is journaling. I am yet to find a more pervasive and powerful practice than getting your thoughts into some written form, because it requires you to observe your thoughts. If you're going to write about them, it takes 10,000 words and turns it into 10, because your brain's operating at hyperspeed. Your subconscious has thousands of words running through it at all times, and then you got to take that and filter it into a few sentences. That's a great act of observance. And so a journal, I personally have I can journal, which is a morning practice, and then a gratitude journal, which is a evening practice. And an I can rather than an I am. I can is a proactive statement, something that I can do. It puts the mind in a very strong state. No matter what's going on in the environment, I can. And then what can I? And then at the end of the day,
why not an I am? I am is a very new age, very like I am this. Put yourself in the future state of what you will become.
Sure.
But you say I can instead.
And I don't have any judgment against that. I won't claim to be the intelligence around the I can. I inherited this from my mentor, Craig, who he taught me about the power of I can. He works with professional athletes at the highest level. I won't name the names because he likes to keep them, respect their privacy. But we're talking about MVPs of professional leagues. And when he works with them, they're all about proactive behaviors, not identities. And I am is an identity, which is good. Like, I am kind. Like, that's a nice identity. I don't really care what your identity is. I want to see what you do. Because it's what you do that actually brings the identity into the world and gives it any value. So an I can is an action statement of some I am. So if I am a powerful basketball player, well, okay, I can bend my knees on defense. I can sprint back. I can attack the offside, the strong side three-pointer from a weak side rebound. Like, these are all very specific cues that you're giving your brain to behave in the way that you identify. So if you're an entrepreneur and you say, I am wealthy, well, that's cool. Like, maybe you are, maybe you're not, and that's relative anyways. I don't see too much value in that statement. But what do wealthy people do? Okay, I can raise $10,000 for my next marketing campaign, or I can meet with 5 different sales opportunities today, or I can. All of that feeds you energy because you're constantly in the state of behavior. And when we're acting around our intentions, that's when we actually feel progress. Not when we are something. Are is like, I am whatever. I am a man. Who cares? Like, what does a man do? That's what I'm interested in.
I love it. So that's the morning practice, and the evening practice is gratitude.
Yeah.
Tell us the tactical, how you go through your gratitude journal.
Many, many years ago, well, there's 3 practices. I'll share also after the gratitude, the personal mission statement, which I believe to be key to this, because it gives you a personal constitution. But the gratitude practice began many, many years ago, where I was probably going through something that was uneasy at the time. I don't remember the specifics. But did you mind if I share a story? Is that okay?
Please.
Please do.
So many, many years ago, when I was a futures trader, I made a series of poor decisions that really compounded on each other. And trading futures is high leverage, high risk, can deliver great rewards, and it did, but it can also unravel really quick. And I got outside of my rules. I got very emotional. I was not aware, certainly not aware at that time of what I was doing. Made poor decisions. They affected me. They affected people that I was trading money for. This was not good. It was not good on a variety of levels. And there was a spiritual aspect to this. And I had done my best. I'm very imperfect, but I had done my best to live up to my commitments that I had made. And one of those was like tithing. I've always tithed since I learned about tithing, and I feel deeply about that. But my life was unraveling financially. And I was like, what's up with this? This is garbage. Why? How is it possible that I'm sitting here paying my 10% plus my monthly offerings and all this stuff, and here I am losing everything? What's up with all these promises? What's up? This is garbage. And it kind of stayed within me. I didn't express it to anyone, but it was welling up, and it was like a dark hole of a gravitational force of just nastiness. And then I love to go to church. Like, going to church is one of my favorite things in the world. And I'm going to church, but I'm so angry about what's happening in my life that it doesn't feel good to be there. Not because of anything that was being said, but because of the way I was acting, the way I was interpreting life at that time. And we always sit on the front row because I used to have really bad eyes before I got LASIK surgery. I couldn't see, so I would sit on the front so I could be close to the speaker. So I'm sitting there on the front, and there's some talk going on, and he's talking about tithing, and I just get so angry. And I stand up literally in the middle of the meeting, and I leave. And my wife is like, what the heck? She's there with our little boy. He's like a newborn. And I just bounce. And I walk home. We don't live far from the church. And she comes home after church. She's like, and I'm sitting there on the couch when she gets home. And I've been writing in my journal all of just this cynical, doubtful, every nauseating, dark thing that I could like get out of my soul. Not because I was trying to get it out to process it, but because it was like, yeah, God is dead type stuff. Because that's how I felt. I was in the thick of losing everything that I felt mattered. So I have this page full of garbage. Like, it's just pure garbage. And Trina comes home, and she's like, what's up, man? And I start telling her. I was like, I'm so sick of this. This is all fake. If God was real, none of this would be happening. Like, the most selfish nonsense. But when you're in it, you're in it. And I didn't know how to look outside myself at that time. And she looks on this page, and she goes, Nate, this isn't you? This isn't real? What's up with this? And she grabs the book, and she tears the page out of my journal. And she grabs me by the ear, not physically, but she's like, come here. And she crumples up this page, and she's like, throw it in the toilet right now, because that's what that is. She didn't use the word, but she goes, that's what that is. Flush it, because that's where that goes. And I was like, oh, okay. Right on. It's kind of like this state change. And she's like, okay, we've lost all our money. What do we still have? What do we still have? Tell me. And sorry for the emotion, but it was just like, it was one thing that wasn't working. One thing. There was 99% of things were working so well. I mean, all it took was I had to just start writing, well, my boy is healthy. There's one. My boy doesn't know that I'm struggling. There's another one. My little boy loves me. He doesn't care if I have money or not. And I could just start writing. And man, when you compare what I wrote down after Trina threw the crap in the toilet, and the depth of gratitude that was available, even in the midst of what happened to be a very traumatic time, that far outweighed like what I had lost monetarily, and maybe the embarrassment of loss, and the kind of the misunderstanding I had about how if I paid my tithing, I was supposed to be taken care of, you know. There's just pages, and the more you write, the more is available. Like, it's just an unquenchable thirst once you start drinking that water of gratitude. And so I learned that life is full of my phrase. I write it every single day. What are the unexpected benefits? What were my unexpected benefits of being alive today? Because life's full of them. All it takes is just like open your eyes, and you'll see all these unexpected benefits of being alive that day. And by virtue of doing that, it allows me, I don't know anyone else if it does, but at least for me, to step outside whatever darkness exists for a moment and put it in context, put it in perspective. And it's not about minimizing the pain. It's about walking with the pain in an environment of abundance, because it's always there. Always there. Could I share another quick story? This is not mine.
Please.
I read this book about a World War II survivor. Her name is Eva. I don't remember her last name, but her name is Eva. Her and her sister or I think she's dead now, but they were Jews. And they were one of the millions who got put in concentration camps. And eventually she got shipped out to Auschwitz. And it was so demeaning how she talked about her experience. They got her off the train, and it was her and her family. It was her and her sister and her father and mother, and I think a young sister. And they did what happened. They went walking towards Dr. Mengele, who he would do this or he would do that. And he would, to that, pointing to the right meant you're in the worker line. Pointing to the left means you're in the furnace line, gassing in furnace. It was that simple. One look, just like that. Well, her and her sister get pointed into the worker line, separated from her dad, her mom, and her little sister. And they get pointed into the oven line. And then the people who are in the worker line go to another room and they get shaved. They get stripped naked, and every bit of hair is shaven. So now it's in the fall in Poland. It's incredibly cold, and they're standing there naked. And for hours, just in the cold, naked, her and her sister trying to cover themselves up. And her sister looks at her and asks, "How do I look?" Man, like, and Eva wrote in her story, she's like, "I didn't want to lie. I didn't want to say an untruth, but I had a choice." And that was the thing. Her book's called The Choice. I had a choice of what I wanted to focus on. And I saw my sister's eyes. And I said to her, "You have the most beautiful eyes." Even in the midst of like the most terrorizing of scenarios, the most despicable of things that can happen to a human, there's still a choice to find something to be grateful for. And she did. And stories like that prove to me like the superpower of humanity. There's always a choice to find something I can embrace and be grateful for. And so the gratitude practice at night helps me to remember that choice. Like daily, it's a choice. What am I going to expand in my life? The stuff that I'm pissed off about and meditate on that? Or the 99.5% of life that's like unbelievably good and rewarding and so better than I ever could have expected when I woke up that morning. and whatever you tend to focus on expands.
I want to ask one more question about mindfulness and then segue into energy. What's your quote on energy tied to performance?
Yeah. So the fundamental currency of high performance is energy.
So that's what we're going to get to in just one moment.
Okay.
One more question on mindfulness. There's a book called Ego is the Enemy. And I'm curious of your opinion, not on the book, but on that concept of treating the ego as the enemy. And we've talked about this a little bit.
Yeah. I think that an ego is just a concept of self, that I exist in time. So that alone, I don't think is an enemy. I think we all want to know that we exist. It's an awareness that I am and I am in time. That's an ego. Now, the ego can be inflated. And I think Ryan Holiday's idea behind the title is the inflated ego is probably the enemy. If you read most of that book, like that's the challenge, because we tend to take things very personal, or we tend to take all the credit for ourselves, or we tend to live in a perfectionist reality, or live at the mercy of other people's opinions because our ego is inflated or deflated. Like those are the danger zones. But a balanced ego, I think, is what we want. I mean, I think we all want an awareness that we are and that we can. It takes ego. It takes an awareness that I am to be able to do anything. So I don't know that that's necessarily the enemy in life. It's when that gets out of balance, either deflated, so we're really passive in life, or inflated, so we turn aggressive in life. That's when that ego gets a little out of balance, and yeah, that could be the enemy.
And I think it's worth saying again that as we've talked about this, and my first impression when I came to the first time we met and brought up the ego as the enemy, when you think of something as the enemy, it's something that needs to be killed or subdued. And that's not the approach can you talk a little bit about what we've talked about in our conversations?
I think it's about integration. Fighting against yourself usually is not a long-term strategy. And so if there is a point of inflation in your life, then find how to integrate that so that whatever benefit it can provide is brought forth. An integrated ego is one that sees itself for what it is and doesn't judge, but is able to extract, like, what are some of the benefits of the passive side of things? Well, there's patience, there's long suffering, there's listening. Like those are very helpful traits, connective traits that are associated more with a passive type personality. So let's extract those. Let's integrate that into my personality. And then on the aggressive side, well, there's taking bold action, there's risk taking, there's decisiveness, there's willingness to stand in front of the fire, and believe that you can do something about it. Well, all of that, man, that's really, really connective in life. Integrate those things. So kind of going back to what we talked about a few minutes ago, when you're able to get out of judgment zone and, either judging yourself as superior or inferior, it's unnecessary. Just see it for what it is. And how could I integrate some of that into my daily practice of being a person? That's when the ego tends to be very beneficial, because it's got all these traits that are virtuous, not virtuous in the moralistic sense, but virtuous in that which points you upward and that helps you strive for whatever level is available in front of you.
Thanks, Nate.
Yeah.
I want to segue into energy being the currency of high performance. Why is it energy and not time or money or athleticism or intellect?
Yeah,
Why is it energy?
Those all tend to be, a lot of those tend to be outputs of energy. First of all, like money, unless it's inherited somehow. Someone put energy in originally to create the financial outcomes. So thinking that money is the fundamental energy of hyper, just look at our nation. Our nation has printed $34 trillion, and there's more money available in the world than there ever has been. But I don't think a lot of people would say the world is more high performing now than maybe in years past. There are certain high performers, but there's a lot of mediocrity in the world, even though there's more money than there's ever been. Time is it's equal among people. It's what you do with the energy. We've all had the experience, for those of us who are parents, of being low energy even though we've had time. Think about a lazy Saturday where you've got time with your kids. You're in the same house for that, 8 hours or something that you guys are around. But if it's a low energy Saturday, you don't look back on that Saturday with a whole bunch of gratitude. It's just like, it was kind of forgettable. There was no energy. There was nothing going in to get the engine moving and create something of note. But a short period of time with a high energy can create unbelievable memories. So you think about like a workout. You go to the gym in a low energy state and you walk on a treadmill for 2 hours. The outcome of that, you had time, lots of time, but the outcome is mediocre at best. It's probably base neutral versus somebody who goes in for 20 minutes, but peaking out on energy, 90 seconds of full engagement, mentally and physical, with 30 seconds of recovery, and they do that 10 times in a row. They will get far more in that 20 minutes than the person who's meandering around the gym for 2 hours. And so you look at life and you're like, okay, well, life is a series of sprints. A day is a series of sprints. So if I can kind of segment my day into a sprint, 90 to 120 minutes of sprint, all in, whatever it is, whether it's my own personal development, whether it's exercise time or whatever you do for movement, then moving into maybe some financial efforts that you're into. Don't think that you're going to be able to maintain a sprint for 8 hours. That's insane. Sprint for 90 to 120 minutes. Give yourself 10 to 20 minutes of recovery, just like a sprinter would. They go hard, they recover. Then they go hard again and recover. And they break their day into maybe 4 or 5 sprints. You can be high energy, and then you don't end the day exhausted. When in initial conversations with many people, they'll talk about how their productivity drops over time. Monday morning, maybe not Monday morning because they're trying to get over their weekend. So maybe Monday afternoon, they start to get engaged, and then they have this few hours of high productivity. And then Tuesday morning, they're highly productive. By the Tuesday afternoon, it's starting to wane, and then they kind of stumble into the end of the day. Tuesday, Wednesday they're okay. Wednesday morning, and then Wednesday afternoon. By Wednesday evening, they're tired. Thursday and Friday are, mediocre at best. And then at home, they get home at 5 or 6, and they're like exhausted. They don't have the capacity. Their battery is like so drained. They're in the red zone. You guys both drive a Tesla, so you know what the Tesla tells you when it's drained down to like the red zone. It's like, you got to throttle back, man. You're not allowed to drive on the freeway anymore because like your Tesla will tell you, you need to slow down or your battery will die. That's not good. And your body is no different. Your mind is no different. If you haven't given it that frequent recovery, then you're going to get home and you're going to just be like, oh, I need to veg. I just need to just unplug for like an hour. Well, okay, who pays the price for that? The very people that everyone says are the most important. Their wife, their husband, their kids. They're the ones who are at the losing end of that negotiation because mom or dad doesn't have it in the tank. So energy, man. You think about yourself in a high energy state with your kids, how much fun do you have? You think about yourself in a focused state with your wife or your husband, how engaging is that? Think about yourself at work when there's 4 things I look at. You're physically energized, you are emotionally connected, you are mentally focused, and you are spiritually aligned. Like anytime that those 4 kind of can piece those together, it's always a balancing act. But when you find that sweet spot, man, life feels meaningful.
Say those say those 4 things again.
Physically energized, emotionally connected, mentally focused, and spiritually aligned.
How do you harness and attract and leverage? And well, we've talked a lot about leveraging energy, but how do you attract and harness it?
Attract. When you say attract, what do you mean?
How do you re-energize yourself?
Okay, so like,
How do you charge yourself?
Gotcha. Okay, so there's several practices. Let me get into what I mentioned earlier. The personal mission statement, I think, is a wonderful energy source. Like having a personal constitution about what directs. I know you have a beautiful one. It's very in-depth. It's several pages long even, that you read every single day. You've sent it to me. I love it. Mine is one that I recite daily. Anytime I bring it up, I feel the intention to say it, but it's powerful. Because at any time, if you re-engage with your mission, energy is meaning in action. Like whatever we're energized around, we care about. If you're sitting in your yard and you see a snake slither across the road and here comes a truck, you don't really care about the snake. You're not going to gather the energy to sprint into the road unless it's your pet snake or whatever, to go save the snake. There's no meaning, there's no energy. But if it was your child wandering into the road, there's tremendous meaning with that. The energy that is immediately available when you engage with meaning locks you in. So a personal mission statement locks you in. My name is Nathan Daniel Harris. I have a mission to live an honorable life of love, service, and adventure. To accomplish my mission. Do you want me to say it?
Please,
No,
yeah, this is amazing.
I wanted to ask.
To accomplish my mission, I will be obedient and pure, demonstrate my love to God and others through inner and outer righteousness. I will be a true leader, exemplify selflessness, personal discipline, renewal, innovation, and courage. I will be the stimulator, expand limits in thinking through animated living and learning. I will be the solution, proactively create solutions while learning from the imposters of success and failure. I fulfill my mission in these roles as a son of God. For any other role or purpose to be achieved, my personal relationship with God must be vibrant and living. I will seek his counsel and empowering strength through meaningful prayer, scripture study, meditation, obedience, repentance, and service. As a husband, my intimacy with Trina is equal in importance to my relationship with God. I honor my covenants with her by replenishing our relationship daily. Respect, kindness, patience, understanding, and fun guide my actions and words with her. As a father, I steward my children as they identify and develop their own purpose and passion in life. I walk with them as a guide and honor their agency to choose. I empower them to achieve their maximum potential. As a family member, my opportunity to unify and uplift is only limited by my decisions to do so. I will always be close regardless of distance. I will bring strength and support in every situation. As a disciple, I will seek to bring God's love to all I interact with, especially those I've been given stewardship over. I will share my best self with them by quietly giving of my time, testimony, talents, and means. As an entrepreneur, I will seek out projects that are in alignment with my mission and commit my time and energy to the most impactful activities. And as an athlete, I will continuously expand my own limits and capabilities in action and adventure. I will care for my body as a sacred temple that it is, thus allowing me lifelong exploration and fitness. I am called Nathan Daniel Harris. Everything I do today will be on mission. So, I recite that daily. And that is a massive energy source. Because I cannot, if I say that to myself, I cannot not act. I cannot not have energy. It's just not possible. I don't care what's going on. Like, let's say I'm exhausted or I've had some insanely frustrating thing happen. Because they do. Like, I'm not above stuff that feels contrary. It happens all the time. But when I re-engage with my mission, it's like, all right, there's plenty to find energy around. It's impossible for me to be lethargic when I say that to myself. That's a story I'm telling. I'm telling my story that I'm telling myself, God, anyone who wants to hear it, like, I have a purpose in this world, man. And for better or worse, I'm going to go act around that purpose. And sometimes it's magic, sometimes it's tragic, but I'm gonna act. And energy goes with action. And when we start acting, all of a sudden the energy builds on itself. And all the like hesitation and frustration, it's like, yeah, it's still there. I'm not trying to ignore it. I'm just trying to walk with it. I can walk with that stuff because I have a mission. I have a meaning. And that's far more important to me than even the most frustrating of things, the most debilitating of things. They're there. They're going to happen, man. You know, like my brother and his sweet sister, she's in the middle of colon cancer, and she's like been in the hospital for months, and just they have 5 kids. Like, the only way that you can move with that thing is to have meaning. Like, if without meaning, that cancer is just a straight terrorist. Break everything, and then you're left with nihilism. Life is meaningless. So what's the point? And then we act in ways that we're not proud of. But on the other hand, if we can find a way to engage with meaning, even in the midst of a damn cancer or whatever, financial breakdown or divorce, there's still meaning in life. That one thing hurts, but you can walk with it. And you can integrate that into your meaningful experience that day.
What are your energy suckers, your anti-habits, the things that are going to stop the flow?
Thinking other people's thoughts, that's one. Probably one that is that's a danger zone for me.
What do you mean thinking other people's thoughts?
Yeah, so we have this tendency, I think a lot of people do, to literally think what other people are thinking, to think about, well, I wonder what they're thinking. Whether it's conscious or not, we organize our life around what other people are thinking. What would they think if I? What should I do so that they? It's like nothing. There are very few things that could be more debilitating to your I cans than to be worried about what other people are thinking. First of all, you don't know. That's number one. It's like you don't know, and you probably won't know. So why try to organize yourself around someone else's thoughts? 2, it's their thoughts. Their thoughts are their thoughts. Fair enough. They're their thoughts. There's nothing right or wrong about their thoughts. They're just their thoughts. You get to have yours. Why blend them? Think your own thoughts. So I have a tendency, maybe less now, but it's still there. But man, a lot of my, maybe 35 years of my life was very much orientated towards people pleasing, trying to make other people happy and organizing myself so I could fit in and make people happy. Even though I was like, I wouldn't say I fit in traditionally, like not a school and job guy, but still I would try to make people happy. And it's so draining because you're just living outside of yourself, not in the way of like, I'm trying to bless another person, but your mind is just constantly, I'm learning how to surf a few years ago. And there I am in the waves where my attention ideally is like looking at the wave and watching it come and making sure I'm paddling and position timing technique to catch the wave. But instead I was so worried about what the other surfers would think if I missed the wave or if I fell. And there's all these good surfers, and then there's me.
Did you have long hair?
I still had long hair.
I
had long hair.
You're
so
so
I had
good
to
at
look. I had the look. I didn't have the skill. I still don't have the skill. I'm very, very mediocre, but I've improved. But that was like this major point of contention in my mind. I wasn't having fun because I was so obsessed with how people were thinking. Like, and maybe it made it worse that I looked like a surfer, so they assumed I was good, and then they saw that I sucked. But yeah, it was like it made it just no fun because I'm just too obsessed with their thoughts.
So is the solution, I can't wait for your answer, you slap yourself on the wrist and say, don't do that? Or what's the solution?
I'm not a fan of the don't do it phrase. You know, from a psychological standpoint, I don't know that it works, you know, like.
Okay, what does work?
Yeah, so going back to observance. If I recognize that I'm worried about that surfer's opinion of me, I can just, that's fine. I recognize it. Okay, cool. What's going on? I'm thinking that he thinks that I suck. Okay, all right. all good. Let me sit with that for a minute. Let me just sit. I'll be there on my surfboard in the water. Let me just sit with that and take a breath. All right, what can I do? So observe, I can. Observe, I can. Whether or not he thinks I suck doesn't have to impact my ability to catch the next wave. So that would be the 1-2 punch. I know it's kind of coming back to the same core principles, but if I can observe it, then I don't judge it and I don't beat myself up over it, nor do I try to, like put my garbage on that guy. Just, okay, he's that guy. I'm my guy. What can I do? I can position my surfboard where I think the next wave is going to break, and I can go paddle my guts out to try to catch it. That's when I'll feel good. And then if I wreck, okay, what happened? I probably was off balance, or I caught it too late, or I was too far up on my board, whatever. Focused on what I can learn. So observe, I can learn. Observe, I can learn. When you're in that virtuous cycle, you're not really too worried about what other people are thinking.
Nate, I have a question for you. You said a minute ago, you said that the first 35 years of your life, you lived in a way that you're trying to fit in, and you're thinking about that and people pleasing. Mm-hmm. Was there one event that switched that for you, a series of events, or how did that come to you?
I think getting great coaching, great mentoring of helping people, so it's kind of hard to challenge your own story, challenge your own narrative. You can do it with practice. You probably get better at it. But for me, it was really helpful to have someone ask me questions. Be like, well, why are you doing that? Not in a judgmental way, like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
But in a, oh, that's interesting. Why are you doing that? I'll never forget. I have this coach, Karen Molesky. She was probably my first personal development coach. And we had these sessions set up, and I happened to be traveling, and I was like in the Sky Club, and then I had this session set up with her. But it's like a coaching session, It's kind of awkward to do a coaching session in the airport in the Sky Club. So I texted her, or I called her like before we were supposed to start. I'm like, hey, Karen, I'm like, I'm in the Sky Club. It's kind of awkward. Can we just reschedule? She's like, excuse me? What are you asking? Well, like, I don't want to be weird in front of people. She's like, whose life are you organizing yourself for right now? Who are you trying to make comfortable? Who are you serving right now by playing small and delaying your opportunity to improve right now? What are you really concerned about? Well, I don't want people to think I'm weird. What's weird? I don't know. No, what's weird? And I was stuck. I was stuck between my desire to fit in and not like, I didn't want someone giving me the crooked eye. Like, what's this guy doing? What's he talking about? I was so concerned that someone who I never had met and I would never talk to and would probably never see again would have an opinion of me. That I wanted to cancel something that I really had paid a lot of money for, first of all. Second of all, that I was looking forward to, that helped my life, that I would silo all that stuff to not maybe be thought of in some way by some stranger in a Sky Club in Dallas. Like when she challenged me on that, I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'm organizing myself for other people and not for me. And so I can remember that distinctly as a point where I was like, this is a chance for me to improve as a human. Like, I'm not going to go out there and walk naked, just, like, I don't care what anybody thinks. It's not that. It's not that lame type of aggressive ego. It's just, it's not required for me to organize my life to make other people feel comfortable or happy. I'm not going to intentionally make them feel uncomfortable, but I'm not going to organize myself in the thought that they might be more comfortable if I did something a certain way.
I love that.
Are there any more anti-habits, anything that stop the flow? have energy?
I mean, we have the usual suspects. Like, phones are very, very complicated things. It's hard to even call them a phone. Like, whatever the iPhone is, it's more than a phone. But whatever that is, I think can be a very, very complicated for energy, because there's a lot of addictive loops associated with that phone. And so when I find myself to be constantly checking my phone, and I'm not saying this in a moralizing way. I was on my mission when social media was a thing, when it started. And so I never, like most people, had an account when I got home from my mission. And I just was like, I'm too busy skiing. I don't care what someone's eating, So I never had any of the social things. I'm not saying that in a moral, like I'm better, or do all the socials all you want. I see it as one potential massive energy suck. Massive for people. I'm not judging it. I'm just saying it's very dangerous territory, because you really are living somebody else's life. You really are interested. The idea to follow someone is just, it's insane to me. I don't understand it. Why do I want to follow someone? What? I don't get that. And I'm not judging it. I personally, I was like, I don't want to follow someone. I want to go do my own thing. So I think that's territory so for me, it would be like text messages and phone calls that can get in the way of having a focused experience with, and all of us, anyone who's got somewhat of an occupied lifestyle has had the experience of your child coming up to you and saying, hey, daddy, hey, daddy. And you're like this, and yeah, what's up? Daddy, what's up? Daddy. So I think those can be big ones. I think another one would be letting the perspective become out of balance.
What do you mean by that?
I'm full of stories. Do you care if I have
No,
stories?
we love.
So my little guy, Kai, he's 13 now. I just love everything about my guy, little boy. And he's always loved Legos. And that's like one of the things for many years that was like besides skiing and basketball, like when we were home, we were building Legos. So he just loves still to build Legos. And he was young. He was probably 7 or 8 years old. And he had got this new Lego set, and he wanted to build it with me. And I was I don't remember the particulars, but there was just a lot of stuff money-wise going on that was challenging, like some deals maybe weren't working the way I wanted, and there were some losses and just some frustrating things. And I had a long financially focused day, and I got home and I parked the car, and Kai had been waiting to build this set with me, and he had left it in the box, and he was all excited. Well, I walk in, and I'm kind of on my phone, and right when I walk in the door, I'm sure you guys have had this, like you're wanting to put the phone away, and then bang, that message hits, like right when you're supposed to let the phone go. But I got some message, and it was like not exciting news. And so I'm like, it's kind of stressed out and not my best self. And I'm trying to answer the friggin' message. And as soon as I open the door, Kai runs down. And if you ever like had a box of Legos and you run with that, like, it's loud. It's like, he's like, daddy, ready to build? And I'm on the phone. I'm like, Dad, hey, Kai, listen, give me a second. Calm down. I got to sort this out. Just give me a minute. And he's like, okay. So he runs off somewhere else for a minute or two. And then that text leads to a phone call. So now I'm on the phone. And Kai's like, he's chomping at the bit. So he runs back. And now I'm on the phone. And he's like, Daddy, let's build. And that friggin' Lego box is just like, it's just so loud. And the guy on the phone is like, what's, Nate? I'm like, hold on. Kai, dude, you got to chill. Relax. first of all, I'm the one who needed to take that advice, not him. But I'm telling Kai, relax. Like, can't you see I'm doing something important? So off he runs, and there I am. I'm on the phone. I'm trying to sort this out. And 2 minutes later, here comes Kai. Now he's got the bag out of so he opened the box. He's got the bags. He's got the directions. Okay, Daddy, time to build. You ready? And I snap. I'm like, Kai, enough. Can't you see I'm on the phone? Hold on. Can't you see I'm on the phone? I'm doing something important. Just, dude, if you don't relax, I'm not going to build with you. And off he runs. And I finish my phone call. And okay, now I put the phone down. I'm like, ready to build, Even though I'm not feeling good, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this thing with Kai. And I'm like, Kai, where you at? Let's build. And nothing. And I'm walking around, like, Kai, where you at? I go into our bedroom. I'm just, hey, Trina, have you seen Kai? I'm looking for him. She's like, I don't know. He was here a second ago. And so I walk into his room in the bathroom, and I can't find him anywhere. And then I walk back into his room, and he has this tiny little walk-in closet. And I see the light on in the closet. And I open the door, and there he is. And now he's young, and he couldn't read very well. And like, this was a complicated build, but he had taken all the pieces and he had poured them out on the ground. And he had that book. If you've ever built Legos, it's like a step-by-step booklet it shows like piece by piece. And for a little guy, if it's a complicated build, like, it's not easy. But he's sitting there, and to the best of his ability, he's kind of tinkering with these Legos, trying to place them on top of each other. And I'm like, hey, dude, ready to build? He doesn't answer. And he's just still tinkering. And I'm like, hey, Kai, you want to build? He goes, Daddy, you don't want to build with me. And I go, Kai. Sorry, man. And here I am, so immature. I go, something to the effect of like, I'm sorry, but you shouldn't have interrupted me. But I'm sorry, I shouldn't have reacted that way. I'm blaming him. It's like this 6-year-old kid blaming him for my reaction. It's insanity. And he listens for a moment, and I'm like, so I'm sorry. Can we build? And he looks up at me, and he goes, Daddy, I don't want to build with you. That was like dagger. I still get emotional thinking about it. I was so out of touch, so out of energy frequency, like with what I told to myself in the world that mattered. I was not living congruently in that moment. That type of reaction and having my mental priorities so disassociated from my personal constitution. So I think that's a massive energy drain when something about you knows that you're not living congruently with what you say you value. It's very hard to have a resurgent energy experience when you're incongruent. So if you can do your best to align yourself with your values and then create some boundaries that maintain some level of discipline with those values and put things in proper perspective. I had lost perspective. Like, literally, I had lost my perspective that day. I wasn't seeing the big picture. I was seeing the small picture. And the brunt of that was my boy Kai. And I got down on my knees and I begged for his forgiveness, and I promised him that I would do my best to be better. And I told him, like, I really do want to build with you. Will you give me the chance? Will you please want to build with me? I want that, please. And I'm imperfect. I'm not always on point, but when I tend to feel myself getting out of perspective, I remember that experience of him looking at me and saying, Daddy, I don't want to build with you. That's brutal. I don't want my wife to say that in whatever way she would say that. Nate, I don't want to build with you. Or my daughter, I don't want to, or my friends, I don't want to build with you. Like, Again, I'm imperfect. I make mistakes. I live out of context frequently, but I try to bring myself back to balance with that perspective. Like, I want to build with my people. I want them to want to build with me. There's a lot of energy there.
Dude, Nate, thanks for sharing the morning with us, man. This has been
incredible.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Good stuff.
This has been amazing. Yeah, I feel like it was for me. I'm just sitting back and watching. And thanks, Nate. Appreciate it, man.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
Any last questions that you wish you would have asked her? Any last things you'd like to leave with us?
Oh, I mean, no, I think whatever was brought forth was what was meant to come. So I'm very grateful for the chance to share some ideas with you guys. It was a wonderful conversation. Looking forward to many more if you'll have me.
Yes, we would love to. I do have one more question, though.
Yeah.
You seem to carry a great life. And I don't think I have met a lot of human beings that just seem greater than life, like you do. And I think it's amazing what you shared with us today. What's a day in the life of Nate?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I tend to wake up pretty early most of the time if I get to bed on time. And I like to start with the cold. I have a nice little yoga room where I have a cold plunge. I dig that. I don't know the science behind it. It just feels awesome. And then I have a sauna. So I do a little cold plunge sauna for about 10, 15 minutes and then go play basketball. I'm so blessed to have an awesome crew to play hoops with in the morning. If it's the winter, generally that will lead to going skiing, like leaving the house. Or if I play ball, get home around 7:15, 7:30, get my stuff in the car, go out, rip some pow pie, and ski for whatever, 4 or 5 hours. It's not every day, but if it's good snow, I'm generally up there. And then I have the afternoons into early evenings. I get to have amazing coaching experiences. I hesitate to even call it coaching, just that's the term, but whatever. It's facilitating and connecting with people through the afternoon, and then playing basketball with my little boy. He loves the hoop. He loves to ski. He's like a mini me. He's a better surfer than me. That pisses me off. So during the winter, like, it's basketball, ski, do some connecting with people, a little bit of time maybe on some real estate stuff, and then whatever is going on that night. Trina, we don't really eat together because there's what Trina eats, there's what our kids eat, there's what I eat. So we just kind of do our own thing. I know that's not how, I don't know. So, and then, I don't know, Trina and I watch a little Seinfeld or something for half an hour, maybe watch a little bit of basketball game sometime at night, journaling. I try to make every day special. Like, hey man, when you almost die on the way up to the mountain once, like, hey, I'm driving up there right after we're done and I might die on the way up. So might as well full send, like, want to make every single thing that I do something that I'm passionate about. So during the summer, we tend to travel. We'll go to like a couple months to Hawaii or California to surf. So instead of skiing, it's surfing, maybe some mountain biking when we're in Utah. So weekends, I do a lot of public speaking events. So sometimes on weekends I'm traveling, and those days look different.
That sounds like an amazing life. Busy, and
I wouldn't call it busy. I would call it intentional.
Right. Yeah.
I truly, I never want to describe myself as busy. Mm-hmm. When someone says like, "Wow, that you sound busy," I'm like, I'm just stoked. Yeah. I'm like going from thing to thing to thing that I love. That's what I want. I don't want downtime. I want uptime. It doesn't mean work. It means things I love. If I can stuff my day with 16 hours of things I love, right on. No regrets, man. Only gratitude.
I'm so glad that you corrected that, because that's what it sounds like. You're occupied with the right things all day long. And
right on.
That's amazing.
Yeah, try to.
Thanks, Nate.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nate.
Yeah. Okay, homies.
You've been watching Hello Grow, the world's #1 growth podcast. I'm Cortland Brady.
I'm Carlos Souza. If you've watched this video so far, it means that you like the content that we're putting out and the people we're interviewing.
We're putting together a community of business leaders, entrepreneurs, and sales leaders. You liking, subscribing, and sharing this content helps us reach those that are going on that journey.
If you want to be a part of this community, please subscribe, smash that like button, and turn on those notifications.